Hi guys, in this movie I plan to show you the user interface of Adobe Premiere Pro. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing you want to do is launch Premiere Pro, and once you do, it takes you to the start screen. And then you're opening up Premiere in the lab. What happens is it'll show you in the middle here section whatever project was open and when it was last open. Okay, so at home it might be a little different if you do have Premiere at home. Also notice on the start screen there's the new project button and the open project button. We'll get to in a little while. I'm going to open up this project and sort of take you through Premiere. Okay, so if you've never seen Premiere, it's a lot to take in, but this is the interface. And right now we're in the editing workspace. Okay, but if you open up Premiere and it does not look like this, what I want you to do is commit this to memory. I want you to go to Window at the top, the Window menu, go to Workspaces, and go, if you're on editing, I want you to go to Reset to Saved Layout. Okay, commit that to memory, make a note of it. It'll come in handy for sure. So I'm going to reset to save layout. Why do I say this? Because there are a lot of people using Premiere in the lab, and someone before you could really change things or have a different workspace available to them that makes sense to them, and to you it does not. So that's one handy tool to kind of remember. Here's what I mean. Someone before you could certainly just move these panels around and really make it look odd. Okay, so if you open it up and it looks strange to you, remember this: Window menu, Workspaces, Editing, Reset to Save Layout. Now we can begin sort of at a foundation base. So let's take this all in. We'll take it in chunks, so if you've never seen Premiere, just hang on. The bottom left corner, if I click on it, this is called the project pane. And you notice once I click on it, Premiere outlines it in a blue, and that is telling us that that particular panel or window is activated. Okay, so let's take a look. The project pane houses or stores all of the information that you're going to use for your project. All of your audio, all of your video, sound effects, stills, and more. Okay, so because it houses everything, you want to make sure you keep it organized. And I'm going to be on you guys to make sure that you are staying organized. So how do you stay organized? Down at the very bottom, you create bins. And bins look like little folders, and that's exactly what they are. And they house different things. So whatever makes sense to you, right? You want to grab a bin, and as you can see, I've made a bin for audio, a bin for stills, titles, videos, and more. Okay? Keep it organized, keep it neat. It'll make your workflow a little bit faster. The next thing you'll see, there's a couple things at the very bottom. Right now I'm in the list view, but if you hover over, you can also go to the icon view, and then there's a scale or zoom feature that you can zoom into the panel itself and see a little bit more. There's a find feature, and then of course a new item, and then a delete trash button. Okay, a lot of different things, but let's take a look. And then up at the top you can notice too there's a couple of different tabs that I have available but have a hard time seeing because I'm at a smaller screen resolution. If you click on the double arrow, it gives you more tabs that are available that we'll talk about in future movies. Okay, but I'm just going to click again to let go of that. And let's take a look at what we have loaded into our project pane. So if I want to see what I have, I can certainly twirl down these little triangles, and then it gives me some information about what I have loaded and stored inside the video bin. Okay, but it's a little hard to see because we're kind of small at this moment. So another great thing I want you to commit to memory is the tilde key on the keyboard, and it's the key right underneath the escape key. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And that's just a toggle, so it brings you full screen and then takes you back, okay? So in full screen mode, I want to see what I have available in the video bin, and now from here I can see very clearly what my frame rate is, the media duration, if I have any in and out points selected, and then some information about the video, okay? This is very helpful. Also, while we're here, the icon view becomes a lot easier to see, okay? So if I go to the icon view right now, if I hold command and double click, now it opens up that particular folder or bin inside this full screen mode, and now we can see larger thumbnails of what's happening. So from here, if I just hover over any clip and I'm just moving my mouse left to right, I can see what is taking place in that clip, all right, which is really helpful. I'm going to tilde back again, and now you can see it brings it back into my smaller window. I can use this up arrow to bring it back to an upper portion. And then I'm going to go back to my list view and twirl this up. All right. So staying neat and organized in your project bin will really help you. Okay. Let's talk about the top left quadrant. This is called the source monitor window. The source monitor window is where you preview and review all of the clips that you have loaded into your project from your project pane. So let's do that. So I'm going to open up my video bin in my project pane, and I'm going to double click on this icon here that looks like a little film strip, and then it loads it into the project, the source window, okay? From here, if we look, there's a lot of information, but this is the playhead, this blue little button here, and I can click and drag, and what I'm doing now is just scrubbing through and figuring out what this clip entails, okay? You can also hit at the very bottom here are your modifiers. If you hit play or the space bar on your keyboard, you can play this clip and see what it has. Okay, so one way to work is to load your files into the source monitor window, play them, and identify what you want to use and what you don't. How do you do that? You make an in and an out to isolate what you want to use. So let's do that now. So I'm going to scrub this playhead, maybe about here. She has her eyes open. I'm looking at her. I'm imagining that's Amanda. And you can tell the source is telling us the title of that clip is Amanda rushing. I'm going to hit the I key on my keyboard, and it makes an in point. And then I'm going to drag the playhead some more, and maybe about there. And I'm going to hit the O key, and it creates an out point. Okay, from here, I've isolated this little section of this entire clip. If you look over at the time code here, bottom right, this ends up being the in and out duration. If I hover over it, it gives me a tooltip. In and out duration of that particular clip. So the way it reads is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So currently for the in and out, we have 2 seconds and 0.8 frames. The section that we did not use in the beginning becomes the head of the clip, and the section that we did not use at the end becomes the tail of the clip. All right, keep that in mind because we'll talk about heads and tails a little bit further down the way when we're talking about transitions. Okay, you can also see my in point looks like an out point looks like a curly blue bracket. You can pull those. If you hover over them, you can pull them and stretch them, and you'll notice my in and out duration becomes a little longer because I pulled it longer. You can also hover over this section here where it looks like 3 little bars, and you can drag the in and out section down a ways if you'd like as well. All right, so that's a little bit about in and outs. Down below, again, in most Adobe products, if you hover over any tool, it'll give you a tooltip and sometimes a shortcut key if there's one available. So keep that in mind if you forget certain things. So now we want to bring this clip in as the very first clip into our sequence and create a sequence. You want to click and drag, and that drags it and creates a sequence with that clip in mind. Okay, now this is also very important to know. What Premiere does is that it uses the very first clip that you bring down to create a sequence and copies or uses the same frame rate and the same video resolution as that clip. What does that mean? You want to make sure that the first clip you drag down to create a new sequence meets or is the majority of all of the clips or most of the clips that you're going to be bringing into this project. Okay, so if you are mixing HD footage and SD footage, you definitely want to start with HD footage as your sequence and copy those parameters and then move from there. Okay, once you create a sequence, you want to go back to your project pane, and I'm going to zoom in here for a second, and here's my project. Here's my new sequence, and it looks like a little different icon, and it has different rectangles available. I'm going to get in the habit of renaming that right away, so I just click right on the name, and you want to name it something like last name, first initial. Oops. I'm just going to put first I and then project name, okay? And then hit return. And once you do, you notice that that name becomes now the name of your sequence. I then would like you to grab your sequence by the icon and drag it to your sequence bin to keep everything nice and tidy. From there, you want to Command S to save the file. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out. And then we keep moving. All right, so what happens here in the timeline? Let me click on the timeline, and the playhead looks the same, right? You can use the space bar to play and stop your playhead as well, all right? If you hold shift while you click and drag the playhead, it snaps to, if you have snapping on, to the end of your clip, and then you can start to build your sequence. The top right monitor here is called the program monitor, and the program monitor is a visual representation of whatever sequence you have loaded in the timeline, okay? So let me grab another clip. So I'm going to go back to my project pane, bottom left, and I'm going to, this time instead of double clicking on the icon, I'm going to click and drag the icon up, and now it loads this clip into the source monitor. So I'm going to bring this playhead to the beginning, and you can hit the home button key on the keyboard as well, and it takes your playhead to the beginning. And then I'm just going to play it to see what this is. As I'm playing it, there's a lot of kind of empty footage first, and then we see this guy being dangerous on the cliff, okay? So I'm going to back up to just maybe about here, and I'm going to make an I, again, isolating what I want to see, and an out. From there, I'm going to only use this section of the entire piece, and I'm going to bring it down. Down below, right underneath in the source monitor window, there's an insert button. When you insert, it'll insert just that in and out point into your timeline. So you notice too, if I hover over it again, it's the comma key on your keyboard. So if I just hit the comma key, now it brings that piece in to the timeline. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to double click on this one. I'm going to make an in and out, and I'm going to insert again. So pretty quickly you can see I've added 3 different video segments to my timeline, and down in the timeline, down at the very bottom, there's a scale bar. So you can pull this, and now you can see I'm going to hit the home key or drag this all the way to the beginning, right? And I can hit the space bar and I can play and see what I have loaded into my story so far, okay? Perfect. Now I'm going to Command S to save the file, and then I can continue on. So shift dragging the playhead will snap you in between the edits, okay, if you have snapping turned on. Also the down and up arrow will move the playhead in between clips if you want. Another couple of good things to know. Another last thing before we end this movie is right in the middle here is the tools. So I'm going to click on the tool panel, and you'll notice right now we have it selected on the selection tool. Shortcut key is V like Victor. The other tools are there, and we will talk about them as we move forward, but know again that you can hover over them and get a tooltip and also a shortcut key about what that tool is, okay? So I'm going to stay with the selection tool, and I'm going to click back on my timeline, Command S to save, and we'll see you in the next movie.